Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this episode of the Dan Dawson Show. So, I want to read you an article from the New York Post. Seattle made the New York Post. Ooh, good for Seattle, right? Cops leading Seattle Police Department over Socialist City Council and riots. So, if you don't know, let me give you a little bit of the backstory about what's been going on up here. Back in, I want to say April, Antifa and BLM took over, I think, 9 city blocks. Took over the East Seattle Police Precinct. They had a couple of shootings. They set up the chop zone. The mayor said, "Oh, it might be a summer of love, or it's going to be a summer of love," and refused to do anything. We had the police chief, Carmen Best, begging her to let the cops retake that precinct so they can get life-saving services to people, which, of course, she didn't go with. Then Chief Best resigns. Then cops started fleeing because the city council put forth this measure to defund the police by 50%. Now, in a city that's already short on police officers, you want to defund them by 50%? Now, and they actually passed, I think, 10% or something like that. The mayor tried to veto that because now our city's out of control, and now she's realizing, when you grab a rattlesnake by the tail, be careful, it might bite you. And that's what she did with Antifa and BLM. Keep in mind, down in Portland, the riots eased up a little once Trump came in and deputized state patrolmen and made them federal officers. So now when they get arrested, unlike Seattle and Portland used to be, they don't get released the next day by the AG or the DA. No, see, now they face charges. So they're kind of backing off down there. It's bad for us because we're only a couple hours away, so I assume they'll move up here until Seattle does the same thing, but I don't think Mayor Durkin will. Luckily, I do not live in Seattle. I'm close, but no cigar. So let me go and read you this story, but that's a little backstory about what's going on up here. Oh, and also something else, right? Remember, a city council member led Antifa to the mayor's house. Remember, it happened to the mayor of Portland, too. Antifa and Black Lives Matter went to his house and they tried to burn his house down. Also, protesters went to Chief Best's house, right? Real brave, real out there for black people, go to a black woman's house and intimidate her and her family. Only her neighbors came out, used a Ford, I want to say F-150 or something like that, some big truck, blocked off the street and came out with their guns and told them to leave. And they say, "Oh, no, we're just here to peacefully protest." And they were pretty much like, "Yeah, go do that somewhere else. You're not going to do it here. You're not going to mess with our police chief." So it shows there's still good neighbors out there. It says veteran police officers in Seattle have been fleeing the department, citing the Socialist City Council and months of recent riots as reasons behind their departures, according to a report. Also, so now what's not in here is a lot of officers have been injured. Serious injuries. I don't know if they were career threatening, but they're serious injuries. The blistering responses were given in exit interviews with cops that have left the Washington City Department for new jobs, local station Como reported. Como's Komo. And this was all in the news all last week, every morning. And one response obtained by Como, a retiring patrol sergeant who worked for Seattle for more than 20 years noted, "I refused to work for the Socialist City Council and their political agenda." And he's not wrong. I mean, a couple of them have come out and admitted they're socialist, like the one that led the protesters to the mayor's house. Led the protest to her house. Meanwhile, a patrol officer from the East Precinct resigned after several years on the force due to a current hostile work environment. Remember, the East Precinct is the one that the mayor ordered the chief to stand down from and hand over to the rioters and looters. In a precinct that is under civil unrest by a small group that is commonly committing multiple felonies and attempting to murder police officers, the officer said. That is actually true. That is actually true. They have been trying to kill police officers. They just haven't been successful yet. There was a case, I want to say last week, where a guy ran up with a flaming 2x4 and threw it through the officer's car windows, 2 officers in the car. Busted out the window, the car got on fire, the officers luckily got away, one actually caught on fire. So yeah, that's when you know you're going too far. And that's when you know you're allowing too much. But see, this is what happens when you don't spank those unruly kids. They grow up to be these. Because remember, Seattle and Portland and San Francisco are the hive of the liberal mindset of no, talk to your children. Let them express themselves. My mom always let me express myself. I gotta honestly say that. I could cry all I want after she whipped me after I messed up. So asked, what did you enjoy least about working at SPD? The officer responded, I enjoyed almost every aspect of working with the Seattle PD itself. The one thing that I enjoyed the least was the handling of the last 3 months of riots. Actually, those riots have been going on for about 5, 6 months. So his thing, he probably put it in early then if he's saying 3 months, because it's been out of control for half a year. Police were forced to abandon the East Precinct in June amid violent George Floyd protests in the area that led to the rise of the infamous Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone. Chaz. Went there. Glad I did. At least there was somebody black there. Seattle Police Chief Carmen Best at the time said it wasn't her decision to clear out the station. Matter of fact, she argued with the mayor about it. It was a big scandal up here. But the mayor was just like, no, give it to them. Give them whatever they want because, I don't want to spank my unruly kids, but I don't understand why they act up every time we go to the grocery store. And I don't understand why they're having temper tantrums rolling around on the ground. Now you get it. Some cops noted the ensuing riots when asked in their interview what factors had a negative effect on morale in the department. The council wanting to defund us and gaining ground doing it, replied one officer whose job is up in the air. Como reported, rioters not being charged even when they assault officers. Asked, would you like to work for SPD again in the future? One K9 officer who's been on the force for 11 years and resigning said, I highly doubt it. You could pay me twice what you're paying me now. Now, it not work for Seattle under this current political mayhem, Marxist collaborations, and the lack of government and police leadership. And he's not wrong. That's exactly what's been happening. These politicians are openly helping the rioters. Remember, the mayor of Portland actually marched with them. And that was before they went to burn down his house, though. Now he's in hiding. Nobody knows where he is. The officers are leaving for other departments in Everett, Des Moines, Kennewick, as well as the Pierce County Sheriff's Office, according to the exit interviews. It's an absolute joke and a travesty for the rest of the citizens here in the city. This once beautiful city. Jim Fuda, the Director of Law Enforcement Services for Crime Stoppers, which works with the department, told Como. Our police department is there to protect all of us, and because of the cutbacks and the retirement, who's going to protect our public safety? Also, something else you have to keep in mind. Remember, Seattle passed a bunch of crazy gun laws. Gun ranges and gun stores left the city, and this was a couple of years ago. And then they handed it over to Marxist. Portland, same thing. San Francisco, well, California itself, same thing. They passed these ridiculous gun laws where you can't even effectively protect your family. And and then they want to defund it, or actually they were calling to abolish the police, is what the city council was calling for. Sawant, I think her name is, who's on the city council, Seattle City Council, was calling for the complete abolishment of the police after you've taken citizens' guns and after you've allowed rioters and looters to take a large part of your city. It's ridiculous. But this is the kind of leadership that goes on here in the Northwest. I don't know. It's just, tell you what, let me know what's going on in your city. Let me know if you want this for your city. Leave a comment. So remember, when they start trying to take your guns, communism's right around the corner, so socialism. Because communism and socialism don't work against an armed society. So thank you for watching this episode of The Dan Dawson Show. I appreciate you tuning in. Like, subscribe, share, do what you got to do.